Hello, good evening. Wow, I just finished watching speed skating, so I'm a little frazzled. Right into the live stream, which is great. Welcome to the first live stream of February this month. Let me close my laptop for a sec. There we go. First live stream, a little bit later because I do a figure drawing session on the first Wednesday of the month, usually in real life, so here in my town. And so that is also on a Wednesday evening. So this is the first time we had a Zoom meeting last Friday, which was great. I am really loving that, the Zoom meetings. And I also like live streaming, but it's always a bit of a switch going from Zoom meeting to live stream. So Ariana is here, welcome. Rosie is here, Linda is here, great. My friends are here. This week a friend told me always dreams of food. I always dream of colors and paint. That is really interesting to hear, and I would love to hear, I would love to hear more. Just gonna grab my jar of Gamsol. And I think we're set. I'm gonna switch. So I don't have a reference photo. I posted a couple of sketches from my sketchbook on Instagram, and so here's the thing. I got a theme because I need some direction, something to sort of give me some idea about what to do and not have that too many options. Basically, there's a word for it in Dutch and I can't really find a translation, but basically too many options on what to do during live streams is not great. And so I got the theme thing from Dylan, who said, themes are great. And then I get the theme. Like this month, I had trouble coming up with a theme because everything, and I think it's relatable, it's been like that for a couple of years maybe, that the situation in the world makes everything that you come up with sound so trivial, so meh. But at the same time, I think, we talked about it a lot, and we're trying to, continue creating art despite the fact that the world's going to shit. So that is, that conflicting thing where if you spend all day and all night worrying about the world, that's not really going to contribute anything to your mental health. And it's not going to contribute anything to the state of the world either, to be honest. So I came up with this theme because it can go either way. And it's a thing that I had been, working with a little bit when I started doing art. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and My stream was lagging a little bit. I don't know if maybe it's just me. Good morning, Fern. Welcome. Good to have you here. I have here black. This is a German Vine black by Rublev, which is an American brand. It is basically an iron oxide. It's basically just charcoal in oil, which is fun. This is my discontinued pigment, the permanent alizarin crimson. This is some leftover Indian yellow. My nail polish is disintegrating today. So Indian yellow and white. I'm gonna work with some Gamsol again. So I might not always have my palette visible because it's gonna drip down. My idea really that I came up with an hour ago, but okay, was to do this and then continue with this next week and then maybe continue with this the week after. So kind of do a 3-part thing. An hour is short, and yeah, it's fun sometimes an hour, but it's also short. So I have my jar of Gamsol. I got a jar of Gamsol. My phone is off. We're Dutch, so we're highly invested in speed skating, which was a drama worthy of the Olympic Games today. This is a pretty large, you can see it, right? It's a pretty large sheet of oil paint paper. And so that also limits what I can do in an hour. So I am fascinated with dreams, and first of all because, you know, there are just a lot of like magical things about dreams where people, they wrote books about the symbolism of dreams. And I remember my mom used to be, not used to be, but still, she knew a lot of things about that. I read a lot of books about it. And so as a child, I was always, I had access to that type of information. And I remember thinking like it was some magical world, and magical stuff just really like vibes with me well. I like magical thinking and whatnot. The thing was that my dreams were always horrible, like gore level horrible, right? Like Stephen King style horrible. And that was a bit of a, you know, kind of takes away from the whole magical idea. And it bothered me because it actually made me not want to sleep anymore for a while. So as a child, I had a bit of an issue sleeping because I didn't want to dream. And it wasn't until I got older that, you know, I started reading other books about the brain, basically, and so also dreams. And I also started to understand that other than there being symbolism, It's also just a way for your brain to process the information of the day. And that, for some reason, really clicked with me. Like, some people click when they read something about symbolism in dreams. And I think it's important to find something, you know, that you click with. For me, when I read that it was also a way for your brain to process stuff that, like, impressions during the day. And basically what it said, what I read, was that your brain uses images, visual information that it picked up or whatever, you know, from a movie or from whatever, your surroundings, paintings, images, everything. And sort of constructs a little movie, probably not explaining it in like a correct scientific way, but bear with me. And processes stuff using that visual information. And when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. Because at that time, at that age, I kind of started to realize that maybe I wasn't processing things during the day the way that a lot of other people process them. So it started to explain, for me it explained why I had such issues in my dreams, like dream issues, you know what I mean? Let me catch up in the chat. We have to have a distraction. Yes, we do. Yeah, this is basically like weekly live streams for me are a way to snap out of the dwelling. Yeah, same, Linda, same. I hope this is not too loud. I'm never really sure what my camera picks up, my microphone picks up. And so when it became, for me, it became also apparent that I wasn't necessarily dreaming bad things because, and that's a risk, right, as a kid, that you start thinking you're a bad person or that you have some underlying bad issues or something like that. But that it was, you know, partially, probably, a way for the brain to process things. And it was a nice kind of balance. This sort of scientific way of looking at it was a nice balance with the more magical way to think about it. And I like doing both. Like, I like thinking about things in a magical way. And I also like thinking about things in a, you know, a more, I would say maybe rational way. I don't know if that covers it. If you know what I mean. I had a recurring nightmare as a young child. Yeah, I had a recurring nightmare too. I remember it to this day, start to finish. I remember everything about it. It's almost as if that dream is somehow imprinted on my long-term memory thingy in my brain. Really? Say science? No, but seriously, like, the one dream, like, that is the dream that I still remember it too. Also, certain medication can make, yes, I heard about certain medication. I was definitely not on medication at the time because I was very, very young. That was not common, but I heard about that. I seem to remember my bad dreams. let me tell you something. I am very curious. I used to think as a child, because I was a bit like everybody must be like me, I used to think that everybody had horrible dreams only. I've never had a great dream, like honestly, a good dream in my life, and I had them probably. This is also one of those, reading about things, scientific information will tell you that, yes, you have good dreams, but you don't remember all of them. And I only remember the horrible ones, like thanks, brain, I guess. Like, can I be on an island or something? I had a friend who used to dream that she could fly, but not like scary fly or no, like awesome fly, like, oh, let me fly to the Bahamas type of, yeah, fly. So you can tell here, right? Maybe you can't tell. I'm kind of hoping. Yeah, it looks... All right. Things look different on my screen than here. You can tell like the particle size in this paint is pretty large. And so it sort of grains a little bit, like some watercolor blacks will do the same thing. I like it. Yeah, let me grab another. I love going to sleep and dreaming now. Most times I can still do things like, that is really cool. That is actually really, like, I'm very happy to hear that, Linda. Lucid dreaming is the thing. My brother had lucid dreams where he was conscious of the fact that he was dreaming and he could control that, like, mind-blowing. I tried manipulating dreams when I was, ooh. Yeah, I used to be a little bit jealous of my brother, who, like I said, was able, it just, it was, I think it was sort of an automatic thing for him. And I think he also, like every child, thought that everybody could do that. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. It's funny how that works. Like it's so fascinating. Basically, what we have here, kind of not, is a Zorn palette, but like a Zorn palette on steroids, because Zorn is like transparent red iron oxide and yellow ochre, I think, but I can't deal with yellow ochre, so I got yellow on steroids. Yeah, I have heard people say that you can train yourself to do that. I don't want to train myself to do that. Like, I don't want to be lucid in the dreams that I'm having. No, thank you. It was very popular, I think, at some point in time to sort of, yeah, train yourself to do that. So my idea basically here is to just do whatever. I have no plan, I have no reference. I have a weird tendency to cut my paper into landscape mode these days. I'm just gonna run with it. I don't know why that is. But, you know, whatever the mind wants, the mind will have. So it's landscape mode these days. It's funny how I don't even realize that I'm doing that. And we're just gonna see whatever. One of the things that I kind of learned when I wanted to paint, you know, things that don't necessarily have a reference photo. Like I paint a lot of stuff that isn't there. Is that it can be very beneficial to paint like this. A couple of days, like in a row, I would do paper after paper after paper and experiment with different mark makings, different moods, because, you know, a lot of this, when you work from a reference, sometimes you have most of the time you have an idea where you want to go. And very often you can manipulate reference photos in Photoshop or whatever to sort of get a grip on the composition and whatnot before you start. When you paint fantasy things, like fantasy is a genre, but I'm gonna call them dreams, all right? When you paint that stuff that is somewhere in the back of your mind, for me, it doesn't really flesh itself out in my mind. Like, I'm sure there are people who are so visual that they sort of see how they want it to look. I don't have that, so I need to do all these kind of sketches and you know, work with marks and texture and whatnot in order to, at some point you see a mark and you think like, yes, that belongs to that, with that dream, that mood, that thing that I wanna paint. So yeah, which reference drawing are you using? None. None. So this is sort of reversed type of paint. I'm trying to find, I'm really tired, by the way, because I had a therapy group this morning and I'm like, brain is empty. But like I said, you know, where if you have a process where you spend time on the reference of it, once the reference photo and the composition is set, then you start painting. This is kind of reversed, where you do nothing except mark making and seeing shapes and seeing how things, you know, you can pull things out. And it just, what also happens is that it gives you a library, very often, of things that you don't necessarily want to use in painting number one, but maybe like half a year later when you're cleaning stuff out, you run into some of that randomness and you think, oh yeah, that actually looks great. You know, stuff you discarded, and that actually looks great. The other thing that is really nice about this way of working is that you can do whatever, right? Because it's all preliminary. None of it needs to be like stable, so you can experiment with what happens if I put Gamsol on this and then thick paint on that, etc., etc. If I'm not disturbed and don't become fully awake, I can slip back. Yeah, only the good ones, because I remember actually getting up and drinking ice water to snap myself out of the. I did not want to go back to sleep to certain dreams, because you kind of feel it in your body that you haven't, you know, fully exited the dream world, and that when you go back to sleep, it's just going to go right back to being awful. So one of the funny things that or not funny things, but just one of the things that I eventually started doing with art was like, not necessarily paint the things that I dream about, because, you know, like I said, I dream a lot of gory things, and I don't really feel the need to paint all of that. But I sort of felt like when you start seeing dreams as a way to process stuff, that impressions during the day, with visual images, and then when you think about art being a way to process impressions and things with visual images, it kind of, at some point, maybe this sounds really dumb, but I had never thought about it that way, that it's basically the same. Like, dreaming is basically your brain making subconscious art, because it's using visual information to process emotions. And I know a lot of people paint for other reasons than processing emotions, but I'm here to process the emotions. That is just how it is. I'm processing the emotions. And it made me look at my dreams in a more like positive light. It made them have some kind of use instead of just being a burden. And at the same time, it also sort of validated my art practice, going more into the, you know, I don't know what that style or category or whatever's called. I also don't really care, but hi, Sean. Welcome. And so, yeah, dreams are your brain making art. And for a long time, I really felt the need to sort of, in between painting what I want to paint, which is weird little buddies with sad postures, I kind of felt the need to also do other art, you know, the real art. And that is also, you know, that's also a process where you're wondering, like, why am I doing the thing that I wanted to do all this time, which is do art all day, and then I make myself make the art I don't want to make. But we've come a long way, like with me, with we, I mean me and you, like mentally and emotionally supporting me. Because I remember one of the first live streams I did, I painted an eye, and then the second live stream I did, I also painted an eye, and I was like, I hope now everyone knows that I can definitely paint an eye. And now we're just being like this, which I think is progress. Like, honestly, I know I'm always being a little bit sarcastic about it, but it feels like progress somehow. I have a couple of vivid dreams that I wouldn't mind capturing. Of course, no details except my mother's eyes and hair. Oh, that's really interesting. I always find it so difficult always to capture an actual like dream. So I kind of gave up on that. Like the stuff that I paint is more like my awake processing of whatever it is I was processing during that dream. Dreams are also so weird because sometimes you have these areas where your brain simply won't look. Like it's not black, but you can't look at it. It's stressful. It's very stressful. I have many dreams where my lost loved ones are in and out of them. Always, oh, that is really beautiful. You have nice dreams, Linda. That's good. It looks like you're painting from my dreams. Haha, that is cool. I wonder if people construct similar imagery. Wondering, yeah, I'm really fascinated with that concept as well. I mean, when you think about you know, what I said earlier, where your brain is trying to make sense of impressions during the day with the visual information that it has, that it's at some point been exposed to. I mean, we live in similar cultures, so we probably have been exposed to sort of kind of similar, like global imagery, visual information. So it would make sense, and it also explains why there is so much information on symbolism, like, oh, this means that. And it also has to do with the fact, I think, that a lot of people dream the same imagery. Whatever the explanation for that is, I won't. It's one of those topics where I like thinking about it indefinitely, like forever and ever. Which is much more fun than having convictions or whatever, like set ideas. Yeah, definitely. Like, it can definitely impact your sleep, the quality of your sleep. Definitely. Near-death experiences are the same in all cultures. Probably, yeah, probably. Like, you know, at the end of the day, borders and cultures and races and everything, it's all fun, but we're all the same species with basically the same brains. Like, there's not a lot of difference between, I believe, on a medical, like anatomical, biological level, there's not a lot of difference between the different brains of humans. I wonder what Gretchen dreams. Yeah. Yeah, I actually think that we're not far from being able to sort of get a visual representation of dreams. Whatever the case, I really love your recent work. I just found you and said thank you so much. Moodiness, yes, moodiness. Thank you, I appreciate that a lot. I went to group like coaching training thingy this morning, and I've been doing a little bit of work, like a little bit of experimenting with bringing my sketchbook. Like I have a sketchbook that is like A4 size, which is 8 by 10 inches. And I remember when I brought it to my trip to Bremen, my issue with drawing in public, which is something that I really want, not because I necessarily, not from an artistic point of view, but because it helps me regulate my existence in public. But the issue is just like anxiety, but also you know, people looking, and you know the thing. Anyways, what I noticed, that one of the things that bothered me about it was that my sketchbook is quite big, right? If you have 8 by 10 inches and you open it, it's big. So at some point I was like, why don't I get a smaller one, like half the size? And so I got a smaller one. And I also got one here, let me show you. I got this one from Clairefontaine, which is an A5. Yeah, it's half of 8 by 10 inches, because I'm not into inches, so we do A4, A5, A6, etc. And so the thing with this, the rings, is that if you have a normal like bound sketchbook and you open it, it's kind of like that, right? It's open, but the ring you can fold. You can flip it over. I know this sounds super like, I'm pretty sure some of you are like, duh. But it makes like this giant world of difference between me not getting my sketchbook from my bag because I'm so like torn up with anxiety over it, and me just doing it. Like, so the size for me, that is what made the difference, and the fact that I can flip it over and make it even smaller. Anyways, solutions. So I spent some time like just drawing during the time I was out, and it makes such a difference. You know, I can focus better. I actually remember what they said. Bless me. It is one of a kind. Thank you. I've been sketching with gouache lately. That is cool. Gouache is one of the, probably the only art supply I haven't tried. Like, I was like, should I get some gouache? No, I should not, because I have every art supply in the world already. It is a very weird medium. Yeah, it's basically, what is it, like watercolor, acrylic, hybrid. It's redissolvable, right? It can be redissolved like watercolor. It's not after it dries, right? But it's opaque at the same time, kind of. Yes, okay, so we're all in agreement that the ring ones are good. It feels like watercolor mixed with chalk. I actually think it's watercolor mixed with chalk, like for real. I have a large one with rings. Yeah, I have one too with rings. A bigger one. Yeah, I got the bound one because they were just really cheap, and like indoors I kind of like them because the rings are not always comfortable, but it gives a cool look how it compresses your values towards the middle. Ah, cool. Hard to get a strong contrast. Oh, now you have me interested. Now I may need to get some gouache. I like it more than acrylic just because you can manipulate edge. Yeah, that is definitely... That is my main gripe with acrylic, is the edges and the edges along the different paint planes, right? The different paints. And the only way really with acrylic to fix that, other than working like a speed train, is to, you know, do transparent layers. But that's just very specific sometimes, and I'm not always feeling it. Okay. Whenever I use gouache, often I also use fluid acrylic. Why? Oh, okay. Experiment with gouache, I can show us, yeah. Oh my. Buy more art supplies, Soda. turn it into an acrylic gouache. Yeah, I think there is such a thing as acrylic gouache, but I don't really understand the thing here with acrylic. I actually heard about acrylic gouache, which is basically waterproof after it dries gouache, but does not make it acrylic house paint. I'm not really sure. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, more black. We need more black. It's matte acrylic, yeah. Oh yeah. It used to be wildly popular to go do, you know, do the thrift store thing and then get like furniture and wipe it down and ruin it with chalk paint. That used to be a thing. I wanna see what happens because I'm a big fan of doing weird needle scratches in dry paint, but we're gonna see next week how that works with paper, because it's paper. That's one of the downsides of doing, you know, preliminary work on a different substrate than your end painting. I remember when I did the work for my series in 2023, I had this one panel that I would use to try stuff out, just because whatever I did on paper or canvas did not react the same as. It's probably one of those things that you learn in art school, that stuff doesn't work that way, but I kind of had to learn the hard way. Okay, so it's basically fluid acrylic binder with a bit of chalk. Linda's bathroom renovation. You know, every time I'm on the toilet, something we should totally discuss during a live stream, I look at my I have a tiny toilet, and I have white walls. I'm like, you know what would be cool? A wall painting. But all of a sudden, I know this in that other part of my brain, that rational part, that all of a sudden, once you start doing a wall painting, it's not such a tiny wall anymore. It suddenly becomes a very big ass wall that will never ever be finished. And you will forever be stuck in that toilet trying to finish that damn wall painting you should have never ever started in the first place. So my toilet walls are still... Who the hell wants a wall painting in their toilet anyways? Like, people are going, oh, cool toilet, I guess. I should not be doing that. Like, I hate gloves, so I don't wear gloves. I do need to remind myself not to touch my paint too much. I read about paint making, that's really cool. I like that too. I like it too. Toilet talk. Yeah, you can talk about anything. Like, I set the bar so low, it's not even here. I used to have cool little paintings of women in the bathroom, but my kids could not stand it. Said they were staring at it. Isn't that the whole point? I hate gloves too. Will wear using oil, yeah. Yeah, you should, yeah. You know, I'm not a huge fan of getting acrylic paint all over your hands either, but you know, once in a while is fine. Like, there are seriously worse things in the air than that, but I don't like I like promoting a little bit of good practice online. But I can't wear gloves. Like, I don't do lead or anything. I think that definitely makes a difference. I don't have lead. But the thing with oil paint on your hands, like, acrylic dries on your hands, but oil paint stays on your hands, and then if you're stupid like me, you're gonna run through your hair and touch your face and... Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock. I feel like I just started like 5 minutes ago. This is, you know, with this type of painting, I can, if I were to do a portrait, like, did I do that last time somewhere in January when I somehow planned the 1 hour portrait? I can't even remember what oh yeah, I remember it. Oh, it's over there, yeah, what I painted. Anyways, after an hour, I am like empty. The battery has run out. But with this type of painting, I already, like, I'm frustrated here because I already know, like, all right, this is gonna go back and forth. We're gonna go next week. We're gonna paint over this, and that is the whole point. But then suddenly time flies. It's a different kind of painting, way of painting, if you will. This will, yeah, as well. Oh well, we're in no rush. Like, figure skating doesn't start until like 15 minutes from now. During the Olympics, my life revolves around the Olympics. Like, what time is it? Oh, well, it's almost time for short track. I am doing a thing where I'm afraid to use my oil paint. Yes, that is a thing. Treating it as a precious material for real painters. Yeah, that is... Yeah, I made a video at some point. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel. Anyways, it's called something like Things I Wish I Knew Before I Started Doing Oil Paint, something like that. Anyways, it was more of a rant about... I think we're a little bit similar in a way that I read a lot. It's, you know, both something I like, but also something I use to sort of prep myself or to prepare myself for things. And I read myself to death on oil paint because I was like, I gotta know what I'm doing. Like, this is serious shit. This is not acrylic paint. You cannot paint gesso over it and be like, whatever, also fat over lean and rules and things sliding off and just like cracking and crumbling down. I had nightmares to a point where I started reading, and you end up with really great information. You also end up with people with way too much to say about what is essentially really just an art supply. And if you take everything very seriously, and it adds to your idea that it's really big and really precious and really, it needs serious preparation. And basically what happened, long story short, is I did not paint with oil paint at all. I was like, maybe this is just not for me. Luckily, I am very stubborn in that way, and eventually just, you know, picked it up. And I started working like this with, in a way that is basically disposable, right? So I started working on paper, and I started working with cheap pigments, right? So basically just umbers and, you know, you can get a red that doesn't have to be a cadmium. You can get non-light fast practice reds, naphthol and stuff, and just go. And that took the pressure off. And almost instantly, I kind of realized that I blew up my brain reading everything, trying to manage everything. It's an art supply. It's a paint in a tube, really. And you know, also remember that if people had not picked up oil paint and just created shit, oil paint would no longer exist because nobody would buy it, right? So paint your heart out, because you're contributing to the existence and the preservation of oil paint. There you go. That was my pep talk. White, ultramarine, and Mars red. That is a great palette. That is a great palette. Yeah. Yeah, I love umbers. Two of the most expensive tubes of paint that I own is this Indian yellow and a magenta from Michael Harding. Yeah, those are the two most expensive. Everything else is either study quality or iron oxide. So yeah. But please, you know, for the love of oil paint. The more you paint, the less, that's weird, by the way, also, maybe it's not weird, but the more you paint, the less precious it becomes. If it sits in the tube, it becomes almost more precious daily. And then when you start painting with it, that feeling sort of dissolves. In my experience. All right. Let's slap this on so that it can dry for next week. Because white is notoriously slow. And then I will call this weird composition enough for today. I will read up on the chat for a bit. Yeah, so and next week we're just gonna, I'm gonna leave this one here and keep it going. I think preciousness just stunts are just the growth. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I think it's also, I felt at some point it was almost a way to sabotage myself, but I also like blaming myself for everything. So maybe there was, maybe not, maybe, you know, oil paint has a long history and the internet has a lot of opinions, and some people just find it difficult to filter through those opinions. And if you're like that, especially with oil paint, you can get very, very overwhelmed in that community of information sharing. It's just very difficult. And yeah, like I said, just paint, really. That is the way that every master and old master and demigod at some point did it. Just, you know, put it on there. Yep, that is my life lesson for today. I'm a big enjoyer of Williamsburg paints. I heard good things, and I think I like trying new brands. I think when you I think we're gonna order a little bit of Williamsburg. I think there's a German supplier for it. It's a little bit more expensive, right? Because I'm in Europe, so I like Old Holland, which is affordable here. Rosie, I love your painting. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you. We're gonna continue. What's on the planning? I need to get my own website up in order to know what is up. We have a live stream every Wednesday, I think. And we have another Zoom meeting on the 20th. That is next. So next week we have a live stream and a Zoom meeting. So that is cool. and we'll see where this goes. Enjoy the Olympics. Thank you. Figure skating is up, so I'm gonna go chill on the couch. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you next week during the continuation of whatever this is, and I will see you on social media and talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.